Have you ever met a man so proud of his masculinity, he thought the world should kneel for it? In the village of Umuahia, there was such a man. His name was Obinna. They called him Lion, but not because he was brave. No, because he roared, loud, arrogant, and constant, especially at women. And in his mind, every woman alive was put on earth to serve, stay silent, and stay soft. From the outside, his compound looked orderly, clean, swept, proud. But inside, the people who lived with Obinna were shrinking. His wife, Adiz, knew better than to speak too quickly or too smart. She'd learned the rhythm of his moods the way a farmer watches the sky. Some mornings he was quiet, brooding. Other mornings he'd walk in, look at the food and say nothing, just tip the plate slightly so the soup poured onto the floor, then walk out barefoot like a king inspecting his kingdom. No raised hand, no slap, just silence heavy enough to choke. Adiz learned to cook without speaking, to greet without smiling too wide, to make herself invisible inside her own home. One evening, she dared to suggest a new pepper stew recipe her friend had shared in the market. Obinna looked up from his palm wine, narrowed his eyes and said, "Did I marry you for advice or for food? I asked for soup, not suggestions." She nodded once, swallowed her voice, and walked back to the fire. His younger sister, Nenna, used to be full of energy, the kind of girl who climbed trees and laughed with her whole chest. But lately, even she moved quietly when she visited. On this day, she came to borrow their family's large clay pot to cook yam for her in-laws. She approached him softly, respectfully, and still, Obinna didn't look at her. He just kept sharpening his blade against the stone. "You're married now," he said. "Why are you still crawling back here for help? A good wife builds her home, not borrows from it." Nenna stood still, trying not to cry. She whispered, "It's just a pot, Obinna." He turned, spat at the ground near her feet and said, "Go and kneel where you belong." And she did. Not because she agreed, but because arguing with a man like Obinna was like shouting into wind. Even his mother, sweet, tired Mama Ijeoma, was not spared. She came to visit one afternoon, bringing roasted groundnuts in a folded cloth and a smile only a mother could wear. She found Obinna outside, under the cola tree, leaning back like a chief, surrounded by half-drunk friends and half-true stories. She walked up and said gently, "My son, not every mountain needs to be climbed with shouting. Humility, eh? That is also strength." Obinna chuckled, shook his head and replied, "Mama, you women don't understand. You're too soft to lead. That's why men rule. It's our nature." When she opened her mouth again to speak, he waved his hand dismissively and said, "Don't let your old age turn to noise." The groundnuts stayed untouched. Mama Ijeoma folded the cloth again, tucked it under her arm, and left without a word. But her silence wasn't empty. It was full of disappointment, full of prayer. The kind of prayer the gods don't ignore. Everywhere Obinna went, his words bruised. He boasted that he'd never obey a woman, that not even the queen of the village. He called female traders parrots with baskets, mocked girls who tried to speak up during community meetings, and if a woman ever corrected him in public, he would simply smile and say, "I hope your husband has the strength to tame you." the sad part. People let it happen. The other men laughed. The women turned away. The elders sighed and called it youthful pride. But even the sky knows when thunder is coming. And what Obinna didn't know was that the thunder had already begun to roll. The next morning, the sky over Umuahia was strange, not dark, not bright, just waiting. The kind of morning where even the chickens hesitated to crow. Obinna woke early, as usual, tied his red wrapper tightly at the waist, splashed his face with cold water, admired his reflection in a broken mirror by the kitchen wall. He didn't notice the crack spreading down the center. He stepped outside and stretched like a man who owned the sun. By midday, he was strutting through the village, his chest out, his jaws set, his smirk loaded like a gun. The palm wine tapper called out to him, "Obinna, will you not greet your elders?" He raised one hand lazily and replied, "Let elders behave, and I'll respect them." The market women heard him and hissed under their breath. One of them muttered, "If pride could cook yam, he'd be full every day." Obinna didn't care. He had errands, ego-fueled errands. First, he went to the blacksmith shop, not to buy anything, but just to show off the gold ring he now wore on his thumb. Then, to the tailor's stall, to loudly reject a perfectly good outfit. And finally, to the village square, where the young men gathered to drink and boast. He loved an audience. That afternoon, Obinna stood with his friends beneath the kola tree, the same one where his mother once stood with roasted groundnuts and walked away with silence. He leaned back on the bench, slapping his thigh as he laughed. "You people say women are strong," he scoffed. "Let me ask you, can a woman climb a palm tree? Can she dig a grave? Can she take 2 wives and keep them quiet?" His friends laughed nervously. One of them tried to change the subject. "Obinna, it's just talk." But he raised a hand. "It's truth. Women are only feared when they talk too much. If they kept quiet, they'd have no power." Behind them, the wind shifted, and before anyone could reply, the breeze brought with it the faint sound of anklets. From the far end of the path, a figure approached, slow, silent, deliberate. An old woman, wrapped in layers of faded cloth, her back curved like a question mark, and a small leather pouch swinging gently from her waist. Her skin looked like it had touched every season and survived. Her eyes were still sharp. She stopped in front of them and looked directly at Obinna. "Lion of Umuahia," she said, voice dry like split wood. "You speak boldly, but have you ever carried the weight of your words?" Obinna chuckled. "Mama, the road is wide. Don't block it with riddles." She didn't flinch. Instead, she reached into her pouch and pulled out a tiny calabash. It was carved with strange markings, ancient, familiar in a way that made the hair on the back of his neck rise. "This drink," she said, "is for men who want to know their true strength, not the kind measured by noise, but by burden." His friends exchanged glances. One shifted uncomfortably. But Obinna, proud, unmoved Obinna, stood up, tall. "What's in it?" he asked. She smiled. "Manhood." He laughed hard, took the calabash and tipped it back. The liquid was thick, bitter, sweet, confusing. He swallowed it all. The old woman leaned close. Her breath smelled of charcoal and rain. "Let us see," she whispered, "how loudly you'll walk when the weight is yours to carry." She turned, and with each step, her form seemed to fade, until she vanished like smoke in moonlight. Obinna blinked, shrugged, turned back to his friends. "Witches and their drama," he muttered. They tried to laugh, but none of them could meet his eyes. That night, Obinna didn't eat. His stomach felt off. Not painful, just full. Strange. Alive. He tossed and turned in bed, sweat gathering on his chest, despite the cool breeze, and somewhere deep inside, something shifted. A warmth. A stirring. Like something ancient had opened its eyes inside him. Obinna woke with a heaviness he couldn't explain. At first he blamed the palm wine. Too strong, too much, too late. But as he sat up, something shifted in his stomach. Not a cramp, not gas, a presence. He froze, then chuckled. "No more drinking from strange women," he muttered. "Maybe she stirred the wine with her toe?" He rose and walked to the courtyard to bathe. The water felt different. His skin more sensitive. His chest ached. Subtly, but real. He looked down and noticed his nipples looked puffier. He blinked, brushed it off, wrapped his cloth tighter, and went about his day. But by midday, whispers had begun. At the market, 2 girls covered their mouths and stared. A boy pointed and said, "Uncle, why are you walking like my auntie?" His posture had changed, his gait. His hips swayed, not by intention, but by design. He stood at his usual palm wine spot and noticed he had to lean forward when he sat. Even worse, he felt sore. In places, a man wasn't meant to be sore. By the 3rd day, Obinna could no longer ignore it. His chest had grown round. Soft mounds that throbbed under his wrapper. His waist had thickened. His face had smoothed out, losing its harsh lines. And his stomach. Dear gods. His stomach. It had begun to round. Not the way men get fat. No, it was tight. Firm full. When he pressed it, something shifted inside, like a ripple, like a kick. He rushed to the herbalist, demanded an antidote, screamed that someone had cursed him. The herbalist just stared. "You said you wanted to be more of a man," she said, her voice low. "Then understand this. Every man comes through a woman. Without us, there is no you. You said women are weak. Now carry what they carry." Back home, Adaze watched him from a distance, said nothing, only nodded each time he muttered about the pain, the swelling, the heat, crawling up his spine at night. He used to bark at her. Now he couldn't meet her eyes. Even Nena returned, the same sister he once spat at, and offered him a fresh bowl of pepper soup. He refused, but she left it anyway. And his mother, Mama Ijoma, she came and sat beside him one afternoon. For a long time, she didn't speak. Then, in a low voice, she said, "Sometimes the gods do not punish with fire. They punish with mirrors." Obinna didn't go outside for a week. The once feared Lion of Umuahia now sat in the shadows of his home, sweating, shifting, swearing, and listening. Because the thing inside him, whatever it was, had begun to whisper. not in words, but in knowing. It was alive, it was growing, and it was his. At night, he would wake up breathless, clutching his stomach, hearing echoes of laughter, his own laughter from months before, thrown back at him like stones. I could never carry what women carry. They are weak. They were made to suffer. Now, the suffering was his, and no man in the village had the spine to laugh. The day it happened, the sun refused to rise properly. It hung low in the sky, heavy and orange, casting long, crooked shadows across Umuahia. Birds chirped quietly, unsure whether to sing or stay silent. A strange wind moved through the village, not cold, not warm, just unsettled. And Obinna could no longer stand straight. His back ached, his belly trembled, his breath came in shallow bursts. That morning, he had woken up soaked in sweat, his wrapper clinging to a body that no longer felt like his. His breasts were full. His skin glowed with a softness he didn't recognize. And between his legs, something new pulsed, not visible but real. His voice had changed too, not quite feminine, not quite his, just different, weaker, human. He staggered to the doorway and looked outside. The village square was filling. A festival was beginning, the dance of the harvest maidens. Women in bright wrappers, beaded waists, laughter, music. It should have been a normal day. But today, Obinna had no control. His feet moved before he gave them permission. His stomach pulsed again, harder this time. And something inside him told him, "You have to go." He stumbled into the sunlight, barefoot, holding his belly. Heads turned, voices fell. First whispers, then gasps, then silence. The Lion of Umuahia was in the square, and he looked like a woman about to give birth. His wrapper hung awkwardly around his waist, loose and dragging, like it no longer fit his body. His shoulders were hunched, his back curved, and both hands pressed against his swollen belly as he stumbled into the square. The proud stride he once carried was gone. Now he walked like someone being pulled down by something heavy, something alive. Adazi stood at the edge of the crowd, Nyenna beside her, Mama Ijoma seated with the elder women. They all watched, not cruelly, not with joy, just watching. Like the moon watches the tide. Obinna fell to his knees, right there in the middle of the square, in front of those he once mocked. The pain in his belly sharpened, his breathing quickened, and in one long, anguished cry, he screamed, "What is happening to me?" No one answered, because the answer was already inside him. The women stood still, and one of the elder midwives stepped forward, her voice calm. "You said, women are weak. Now carry what they carry." Obinna clutched his stomach and wailed, not from pain alone, but from shame, humiliation, the deep, skin-burning realization that this was the lesson, not through fists, not through fire, but through becoming. And then, a final pulse, a final cry, and silence. Obinna collapsed to his knees, breath shaking, arms wrapped tight around his swollen belly. For a long moment, he stayed there, trembling, sweating, broken. Then, slowly, he rose. No one moved. His eyes were wide, not with fear, but with something hollow, as if the man who once called himself Lion had been emptied. He turned, took one step, then another, and without a word, he walked away from the village, barefoot, bent, and heavy, into the forest path, never once looking back. Obinna was never seen in full again. After that day in the village square, the name Obinna was spoken less and less, not out of respect, but out of discomfort, out of shame. People said he left at night, slipped into the forest barefoot, belly still swollen, eyes still wide. Others insisted he never truly left, that he hid behind the abandoned yam barn, wrapped in his own silence, whispering to the thing inside him. No one could say for sure, because no one dared to look too closely. But everyone remembered what they saw. A man brought to his knees, a body that once mocked women, now shaped like one, a cry that did not belong to any human Obinna had ever known. Some swore a baby was born that day, not from the body, but from the curse, a living echo of his arrogance, a spiritual reminder. A few days later, children picking mangoes near the forest came running home, screaming. They said they saw a small figure, round belly, soft face and feet, that never touched the ground, watching them from between the trees. Its mouth was open, but it didn't speak. It breathed like it was carrying someone else's life. The elders tried to stay calm. They told the village to stay quiet. Let it rest, they said. But rest never truly came. Women began tying red cloths to their doors. Men stopped joking loudly in public, and no one, not even the drunkest palm wine tapper, ever called themselves Lion again. Adaz, Obinna's wife, never shed a tear. She returned to her garden. She started laughing again, but not loudly, not often, only when the air felt clear enough to breathe. People noticed that her eyes changed too. Not bitter, not proud, just sharper, like someone who had watched fire burn her home, then calmly swept the ashes into a calabash and walked on. When asked what truly happened, she only said, "The gods don't waste curses, they tailor them." Mama Ijoma, Obinna's mother, remained in the compound. She swept every morning, lit incense every night, and never once removed the calabash that now sat permanently beside the cola tree. Cracked, but never thrown away, she didn't speak her son's name again. But she prayed every day, not for him to return, but for no one else to become what he became. And the old woman? No one could describe her face clearly. But on certain market days, the air would shift. The ground would feel heavier, and someone swore they saw a hunched figure leaning near the pepper stall, watching, always watching. To this day, travelers who walk through Umuahia are told one warning. If a stranger offers you a drink for strength, leave your pride at home. I hope this story reminds you of Obinna, the man who thought being a man gave him the right to belittle every woman around him. He didn't hit them. He didn't need to. His mouth was sharp enough. His pride did the damage. He insulted his wife for trying to speak. He humiliated his sister for asking for help. He told his own mother to be quiet because her wisdom didn't fit his ego. Every time a woman tried to be seen, Obinna made her feel small, until the gods made him smaller. They didn't curse him with fire. They didn't strike him dead. That would have been too easy. No, they turned him into exactly what he used to mock. They gave him the body of a woman, the belly, the weight, the softness, the fear, the judgment, the silence, the swelling, the changes, the cramps, the shame. And then they gave him the baby, or whatever it was that cried inside him. So let me tell you this clearly. If you walk around thinking you're better because you're a man, the world will humble you. If you think strength means silence, you will learn what it means to scream. If you disrespect women long enough, one day you'll wake up as the thing you couldn't respect. Obinna didn't lose everything. He became everything he hated. And that's worse. Don't let pride make you blind. Don't let ego make you stupid. Because the same mouth you use to talk down on women may be the same mouth you use to beg when it's your turn to carry what they carry.